I was playing lots and lots of computer games. I might look very, very cool today, but I was actually a geek. Imagine that. The game I liked the most is by far Civilization, and then Dune 2. More geeks in the crowd. Dune 2, if you remember, the game that invented real-time strategy games. It was amazing. I loved it. I played it every second of every day. I won every single level in less than 10 minutes. I was the best. And this screenshot is actually from the first game that I played online. I played with a friend. And I remember my feeling for the first time looking at the small map and knowing that everything in black is darkness. I have no idea where my opponent is. And unlike the computer, which is kind of dumb, this is a human being. And even if the human being can be dumb, he's dumb in a very unpredictable way. So that was actually when I kind of stopped playing games, because then I saw that people could be smarter than me, and I don't really like that thought. So basically, computers are very fast. They're very good at solving many good things, but they're dumb. They're extremely dumb. And every time that we see a movie about computers controlling the world, taking charge of everything, Skynet controlling everything, everybody else in the theater becomes very stressed, but us programmers know that computers are extremely dumb. However, as opposed to computers, DNA is very slow. Evolution is really, really slow. However, it's really smart. Evolution solves almost any problem. We are the products of evolution, and we can do many things that computers basically can't. So if we could find a way to join the two methods, that would be A, really cool, and B, kind of scary. Let's do that. So the next session is going to be about genetic algorithms. That is, algorithms that imitates genetics, imitates DNA. And DNA, as we probably all know, DNA is basically software. It has letters, it has codes, and this is the software that we, our cells, run on. So if we can imitate that, maybe we can build smarter computers. So we're going to talk about DNA and evolution just a bit to make sure that everybody knows the terms. Then we're going to talk about genetic algorithms basics. We're going to see some real-world demos and some very freaky and kind of scary demos. And then we're going to talk about the implications. Some of them might be scary, and some of them are actually very interesting. So if we start with DNA, each cell basically has a copy of our DNA. So we're not just one computer. We actually have trillions of computers inside us. We have trillions of cells, and each cell has the computer, the hardware, the actual cells, and the software, which is the DNA. Each cell contains chromosomes, which are strings of DNA, strings of letters that do something. Each chromosome contains sets of genes, blocks of DNA, and each gene determines some aspect of the organism. For example, blue eyes, brown eyes, etc. DNA evolves. DNA has reproduction. It combines genes from parents, and then it mutates those genes. And each generation is supposed to be like the last generation, only a tiny bit better. And if I'm successful and pretty or whatever, I'm going to survive better, and therefore I'm going to have more offsprings. This way, each generation is going to hold the better solutions of the last generation, and with some mutations and some learning, we're going to eventually have better and better solutions. And I don't really have to prove that, because each and every person in this room is a living proof of how smart DNA can become. So basically, this computer here has, I think, 8 cores. Just 8 cores. 4 cores. Each computer that we are using now, our own computer, our own body and mind, have trillions of computers, of cells working in symbiosis, working together to create our cognition, ourselves, basically everything that we know. The fitness of an organism is how much it can reproduce before it dies. Basically, it means how successful I am. And it comes from Darwin's idea of evolution, survival of the fittest. So basically, the more fit an organism is, the more likely it is to survive and therefore have more offsprings, and therefore the better solution, the more successful solution is going to survive to the next generation and keep on evolving. DNA is surprisingly good at solving some very hard problems. So for example, face recognition. If I look at you like this and then like this, you can still recognize me. You don't even see that something has been changed. Nothing even registers in your mind that something has changed. However, for a computer to recognize that this and this are the same person, it's kind of hard. And if I put on glasses, if it's raining, if it's different lighting, something that all of you could do since you were 2, 3 weeks old, computers still can't solve. Handwriting recognition. I've been recognizing handwriting since I was 6. Computers still can't really do it. So if you're writing in English and you have a very good American kind of handwriting, then computers are going to recognize your handwriting. However, I'm coming from Israel. I'm using a language, a very esoteric and unimportant language called Hebrew. Only 7 million people worldwide are using it. And hand recognition for devices in Israel sucks. Basically, it doesn't recognize anything. It's really cool for the first demo, and then you just decide that, what the hell, I'm going to use a regular keyboard. This is where DNA is very, very good. Our own human brain is very good. Computers, really bad. Another good example is the traveling salesman problem. It's a very classic problem. Basically, it's something that looks like this. If I have a salesman that has to go to all of the cities in the US, Boston, San Diego, New York, St. Louis, and Atlanta. And each road takes some time, and I want to find the shortest path that goes through all of them. It's a very classic algorithmic question in computer science. Basically, the same problem goes to building roads. If I am the president of the US and I want to build roads, the best roads to connect all of the cities, it would be very helpful to solve this problem, to know what is the shortest path that combines everything together. And it turns out that although humans are not really good at solving those kind of questions, DNA and organisms are. So if you plant mushrooms in the place that represents Boston and San Diego, New York, Atlanta, all of the cities, mushrooms are going to create roads, create extensions to reach one another in the best possible way. And this specific problem used to be a problem that was almost unsolvable for computers. Let's say that this is not just 5 cities. Let's say it's all of US, 100,000 cities. It's something that computers can solve in 1,000 years to reach the best solution possible. And although mushrooms don't always get the best solution possible, they get a very, very good solution. It's very close to the perfect solution. So even if it's not 100% accurate, 99.4% is usually good enough, and I promise you it's much better than the road systems in the US, Romania, and Israel combined. So this is where genetic algorithms really shine. Basically what we're going to do is like DNA, like evolution. We're going to create lots of different algorithms that compete with one another. They're going to try to solve this problem. They're going to fail, but they're going to reproduce, mutate, and evolve until we find a good enough answer. So just to start with a very quick demo, we were talking about JavaScript and how strong it is, and JavaScript is strong enough to solve this problem. This is a JavaScript engine, a genetic algorithm engine to solve the TSP problem, the traveling salesman problem. As you can see, each blue dot represents a city. The black lines represent roads from each point. And the distances between the points represents distances. So I would like to find the shortest path possible. This is the first iteration. This is just completely randomized. So the first solution, as you can see, is obviously really bad. And roads in Israel basically do look like that, but it's not the best solution. Let's click on Start. What it does now, it keeps on simulating solutions, and it keeps on trying to find the best solution possible. Each time, each generation, it finds the best parents and combines them together. Then it adds a little bit of mutation, and after a few iterations, it arrives to this conclusion. This is not the best solution. However, it is very, very, very close to it. This is exactly how mushrooms and DNA and basic cells would solve a problem like this. If I'm going to run it again, I'm going to reach each time I'm going to reach different solutions. It's never going to be, sometimes it might by accident be the best solution possible, but usually in problems like this, I'm not looking for the best solution, for the optimum solution. I'm just looking for a solution that is good enough. And this is, in fact, good enough. So how does it work? So basically, as we said, it's based on Darwinian paradigm, survival of the fittest. It starts with competition. We're going to initialize a lot of different algorithms, all trying to solve the same problem. In the beginning, they're all going to be just randomized. They're not going to have any good solutions, but they're going to keep on getting better. After we let them compete, and if I'm going to randomize different kinds of algorithms, then some are going to be better than others. After I let them compete, I'm going to select the best ones, let them survive, and then let them reproduce and mutate to create the next generation. Basically, it's just a search and optimization mechanism. That's the boring computer science way of describing genetic algorithms. But as you will see, it could be much more than this. The most simple genetic algorithm would look like the following slide. So we initialize the population, the different organisms, or the different ways to solve the problem. We evaluate the population. And as long as termination criteria not satisfied, that is, we've reached a solution that is good enough, we are going to select parents for reproduction, perform recombination and mutation, and then reevaluate the population, and we're going to repeat that. So basically, it's inspired by natural evolution. It's a population of individuals, us, or algorithms. Each individual or algorithm is a feasible solution to the problem. And each individual is characterized by a fitness function. That means how successful that organism or algorithm is. Higher fitness is better solution. And each individual is important, as we'll see later on. To see the full, to see it better, it's actually this simulation could be a little bit better. This is a simulation of a version of Game of Life. So basically, each one of the green dots represents food. Each one of the blue lines represents an organism or human being or whatever, a person that seeks food. And each one of the red lines is going to try to eat as much food as possible. The algorithm is very simple. It has very few options. Each person or organism can go forward, backward, to the right, or to the left. And it can eat to forward, backward, to the right, and to the left. That's all you can do. Some of the organisms at the beginning are stranded in white space, so the chances are that they're going to just die and without eating anything. However, some of them landed very, very close to the green spots, which means that they're lucky. They're going to have a lot of food at the first generation. Let's begin our simulation. So click on Run. So as you can see, the first iteration is kind of stupid. They're moving around, doing nothing, and think of you having those options. You can go forward, backwards, right or left. You don't know what food is. All they know is they have 8 different options to operate, going to all directions and eating in all directions. That's all. They have no idea that food is good. The only reason for them to understand that food is good is that I'm going to kill them if they don't eat enough. Basically, that's evolution, that's life. And some of them learned that if you only go forward, that's the best possible solution. Some of them just died completely. And that's just the first generation. If we make it a little bit faster, because this is kind of boring, you can see that this is year 1. Let's pause it for a second. Now we're in year 2, day 24. So each generation dies at the end of the year. Then I'm selecting the best, the organisms that ate the most. I'm combining them with each other, mutating them, and let the simulation begin again. And if you're going to make it a little bit faster, so most of them still don't do too much, and some of them are stuck in corners and stuff, but some actually started eating quite a lot. And if I pause it for a second and go over here, you can see the statistics of each and every year. So in the first year, the average score is 1.52. That's kind of sad. So the average person ate 1.5 food and then died. The best one ate 5, but not very good also. But the second year, something really interesting happened. The high score for the second year is now 25, whereas the average is 4.6. So each year, they are becoming smarter and smarter and smarter. And as you can see, it doesn't necessarily always go up. So from 1 to 4 to 3 to 6 to 13. Because sometimes they can make the wrong decisions. Sometimes we might think that some specific organism is very, very good, but that could have been because he just landed, luckily, next to food. So that doesn't really mean too much. The same goes for us. We could have been born with money. It doesn't mean that we're that successful. It could be our parents. In my case, it's not the case. Let's write a bit more. If I'm going to run it, let's say 20,000 generations, you're going to see some very cool things. When you run it to generation 20,000, and that takes more than one computer, obviously. Usually I'm going to do that in the cloud. You're going to see tactics evolve. And they're starting to take food from one another. They're going to move one another. They're actually starting to fight. And that's really, really cool. So that's a very simple, very, very simple simulation. When I'm writing a genetic algorithm simulation, there are 4 main issues I have to consider. Basically, each one of them is going to compete with one another, and I'm going to evaluate each and every one of them. After that, I'm going to select the best ones using a fitness function. Basically, it uses ideas from Darwin, survival of the fittest. Then I'm going to reproduce them. Then I'm going to mutate them. How does it work? Based on their fitness, parents are selected to reproduce offsprings for a new generation. Like we said, new generation has the same size as old generation. Old generation dies. And offspring has combinations of properties of 2 parents. So basically, let's start with a very, very simple example of genetic algorithms. For example, where to drill for oil. So let's say I have a road that is 1,000 meters long. And I'm trying to find the best possible way, the best possible place to try and find oil. So I can just randomize two solutions. One is at the 300 mark and one is at the 900 mark. I'm going to encode that data in binary format. So basically 900 is 111,000, etc. 300 is another one, and that's my genome, my DNA. At the beginning, I don't really know what are the places that has the most oil. So like my algorithms, myself too, I have no idea. I want to find oil, as I said before, my parents didn't really give me that much money, so finding oil is a good idea. The graph represents location. That's the y-axis, the x-axis, and the y-axis represents oil. So basically, the most oil I'm going to find in the high places, these places, that places, etc. Of course, it doesn't have to be in just one dimension. It could be 2 dimensions, etc. Example population would look like this. So I'm just randomizing different kinds of solutions. It's just numbers at this point. And the fitness of each and every one is kind of different. Okay, so if you remember, the best point is somewhere around here. There's another good point here, another good point here. So if you look at the different places, number 6 with fitness score of 5 is my best solution. So I don't really know at this point if this is the best place, because I could have randomized them in bad places. So if, for example, I randomized them here and here and here, then I might think that this place is the best. However, this is the best place. So I have to make sure to keep on reproducing and mutating them all. Recombination, joining two together, looks something like this. I'm just going to take two parents. Usually I'm going to take successful parents. I'm going to combine them together and mix their genes. So I'm going to cut some of their genes and just replace them with the genes from the other parent. So one child is going to have some DNA from the first parent and the other part of the DNA from the second parent, and the second child is going to do exactly the opposite. This allows us to take all of the good solutions that our parents found and try to recombine them to newer solutions in our offsprings. Sometimes it's not going to work. Sometimes two parents give birth to a child that has the cons, the bad parts from two parents. Sometimes, if we're lucky, we'll get the good parts from both parents. So we're just doing it completely randomized, and as this is not really living organisms, I don't really care if they die. So mutation is also very important, because if all of my original population was initialized in a place that has a local maximum, then eventually they're going to reach that maximum. I need to make sure that I'm searching all of the available search space. This is why I'm going to use mutation. Mutation just adds just a bit of randomness. Mutations, as we all know, most of the time doesn't really do good things. Mutations usually is very harmful. But every once in a while, a mutation does something that's really important, like creating neocortex for humans. So sometimes it's a very good thing. So mutation basically means just completely randomizing bits to change, and that's all. So let's look at something a bit more interesting other than game of life. Let's see some real-world implications. All of the demos I'm doing here, most of them are written in JavaScript. They're completely open source. If you want, you can download them from GitHub. It's completely operational. It's really easy to do that. This is something a bit more interesting. This is a simulation of how to build a two-dimensional car. And as you can see, it actually struck gold at the first iteration. It found something really interesting. It kind of looks like a bike. Usually, if you let it drive for enough time, it's going to find something that looks kind of like this, but eventually it's going to fail. So each time it goes back to the beginning, it means that it's creating a new generation. If you let it run for enough time, you're going to find really interesting solutions. Solutions that sometimes are better than our solutions. That's really cool. However, if for some reason, of course, this area is completely randomized. The road is randomized and is generated by a computer from scratch each and every time. And if for some reason that specifically now that algorithm became really successful, then all of the searches of the genetic algorithms are going to be stuck in that direction. Because as of now, this is the best solution from all of the other algorithms. You can see that more and more algorithms, more and more solutions become like the best looking one, the most successful one. But it's not the best, because it does get stuck each and every time at this point. So this is not obviously this is not the best solution. It's just the best solution that this simulation has found. And if I'm going to open another simulation, and this one I opened a few hours before, actually this is a new computer. This is about 2 hours when we arrived to this place. So this is the solution that another simulation has found. And this is after, this is generation 8 at this point. You can see it's much better than what we saw the last time, or arguably. So this is actually kind of funny, because this has been running for 2 hours, and I don't think this is better than what we saw the first time. So how could that be? So genetic algorithms does not necessarily find the best solution. It finds the best solution that it can for that specific simulation. However, if we take both simulations and combine them together and let them reproduce and mutate together, we're going to combine the best solution from one simulation, one computer, and the best solution from the second computer. So basically, each computer, each simulation working on this problem finds very good solutions. If we combine them together, we're going to find better and better and better solutions. This goes much farther, by the way. This is yet another simulation, although this one has different, even more, it has a better physical engine. It has those small things next to the wheels. Thank you. Next to the wheels, and this actually becomes, after running enough time, becomes very, very, very good bikes, very good cars. Yeah, suspensions. That's the word I was going to use, and wheels. You have to make sure to realize just one very important issue. The simulation here shows only the best one. But the best one is almost never the best solution overall, because the best solution is only as good as the best solution. If it's not going to combine with all of the other solutions, it's going to lose data. It's going to lose information that others might have. Okay, that's the same reason that humans need different DNA to recombine with. And if we're going to close 100 people together and let them reproduce only together, eventually they're going to die. Eventually the DNA is not going to be diverse enough, and this is why the entire search space, all of the algorithms together are combined into the best solution. Each and every one of the algorithms is therefore very, very important. So basically, I've seen you things that are kind of interesting. We see that a computer can find a better way to build bikes, but to be honest, I have very good bikes, and I'm pretty sure that they are in the best way possible combined. And it's not that interesting, but this could be more interesting. So walking computers, walking robots. I've been trying to build robots since I was 6. That was actually the first thing that I really loved about computers. It allowed me to build the brains of robots. And this is a robot that was built in a research lab in the US. It's an extremely stupid robot at the beginning. It has tilt sensors, so it knows when it's tilted. It has servo actuators. That means basically engines that control the arms. But other than that, it knows nothing. It does not know how it looks like. It has no idea. It has no idea what's the fitness function. That is, it doesn't know what forward is. It just knows one thing. If it does manage to go forward, I give it higher, better score, and therefore it can reproduce. So of course, I'm not going to try and reproduce those robots. They don't really do anything when I put them together. But I'm going to run simulations of this model, and then I'm going to run it inside the chips that control this device. By the way, it's Raspberry Pi with JavaScript. So basically, it's going to try and understand the model. It tries to understand how it's built, and then it's going to try and walk forward. So let's see how computers are going to take over the world. So that's the first time we open it, and this is what it does. And remember, it has no idea what it looks like, so it's just doing this. And now it disconnected itself. Kind of scary, huh? So basically, at the beginning, this is the first cycle. So what it does is like just moving things around to see what are the effects, and it's trying to understand how it looks like. So this is basically the model that it has in its brain. It's trying to understand how to move. This is the 8th cycle. So it knows that it can move forward. It knows that it has a big, it has legs. It probably has 4 legs. And this is the 16th cycle. And at this generation, it already knows that it has 4 limbs and it can move. So if we're going to simulate its movement, this is what the 16th generation looked like. And if you're going to do that in real life, in a real robot, it would look something like this. Tum, tum, tum. Yeah, so not that scary, is it? It's kind of pathetic, if you ask me. But that little thing one day would rule the world. So again, this is just the 16th generation. And of course, this is I don't have to run a real simulation of it. I can run the simulation in a computer over the cloud in tens of thousands of computers simultaneously. And it's really, really cheap. Just use Amazon. So let's see another example. And this one is a robot that has 6 limbs. This is very far from being in the 16th generation. At the beginning, it moves kind of well. It knows that this is the best way to hold its limbs after much research and many times of it falling. It has sensors. It can see forward and backwards. It knows when it's tilted. And it's actually kind of really smart. So maybe now it doesn't look that impressive, but remember, it learned everything by itself. After generation 20 million, this is how it looks like. And it's impossible to make it fall. Now this is scary. And if you look at it on its eyes, you can see that it's kind of pissed. How many people of you know KXCD, the comics? Yeah, so define get solution cost. This is the genetic algorithm tip. Always include this in your fitness function. Look at the center line. This algorithm becoming Skynet cost 9 billion. It's very, very important to put that in. Otherwise, computers are going to rule the world. So please remember that. The implications. So the first time that we see something like this, it's kind of scary. And every time I tell of genetic algorithms to developers, there's always this moment where they're kind of scared. Because we see all of Skynet, all of the scary movies, and we always know that it's complete BS until we see this. So we might think that this should be this could be scary, and I could agree with you. But however, recent research showed something that is very, very interesting. Genetic algorithms basically are the combination of two different, very, very different fields: computers and biology. And when we talk about the human brain, human perception, it's biology, psychology, and computers. Basically, whenever two sciences combine together, one field gets lots of ideas, lots of mathematics. The other field gets the other way around. We get a lot of mathematics into psychology and biology. So the implications are kind of cool. Fitness functions, basically telling the computer whether it's warmer or colder, better or worse, that's the only thing that a computer can't do and will never be able to do. That's kind of cool. The only thing that a computer can't do is telling if the solution is better or not. Choosing the right fitness function is crucial. Basically, as I shown you in the car 2D example, I used a road that was like this. If I had used a different road, or maybe used a different fitness function, I will get completely different results. So for example, I can tell the walking robots, I can tell them that they get points if they eliminate each other, if they don't ever fall. The cars that I've produced are cars that don't really have people in them, so I don't care if they do this. So the fitness function is going to control what solution we're going to have eventually. So basically, the one thing that only humans can do is the one thing that computers will never be able to do, and choosing the right fitness function basically is everything. Which raises the question, which solution is right? Which fitness function is the best? If I showed you the simulation before, the simulation of car 2D, I can choose whatever parameters I want. I can tell them that I don't want them to just go forward without just continuing. I can tell them that I want them never to flip, or to be as fast as possible, to be as slow as possible and still continue. Or maybe I can tell them to fly. As long as I have all the regular physical engine behind the scenes, the computer eventually is going to find the solution. So the question becomes not how to do it. The computer is going to solve that. The question becomes, what do I really want to do? So the first time I saw that in a lecture, I was kind of surprised, because the question now is not which solution is right, but which solution is the most fun. Actually, fun is now a part of an equation in genetic algorithms. If you look back at our human brain, human cognition, it turns out that we can learn a lot about our own brain from those simulations. The theory says that the human brain has every characteristic of a true genetic algorithm computer. That is, it runs simulation of our understanding of reality. Science, modern science nowadays say that we don't really live in a 3D world, not even a 4D world. String theory states that we live in 11 dimensions, and we see only just a small fraction of it. It's actually a very good question, what do we actually see? Because we can interact with one another, although we see only 3.5 dimensions out of 11. So it turns out that our brain actually runs a simulation of what we see. If you've ever heard the term mirror neurons, it means that our brain sees everything and builds a simulation of what it saw, and only the simulation is what we remember. Only things that we can simulate inside our brain. And everything, anything that we can't really understand, we don't even see. As simple as that. Law of attraction, coming from American New Ageism, Basically, it means that whatever I'm thinking, I'm going to see more of. So if I'm going to buy a Honda car, all of a sudden I'm going to see that the car is filled with Honda cars. So whenever I'm going to focus my attention on something specific, that is, I'm going to tell my brain, my computer, that this is the fitness function that I'm looking for, the thing that I desire, this is what I'm going to see more in reality. I want to be clear on that. It's not, if I'm going to think about, I want more money, basically I'm saying I don't have enough money, so I'm going to prove that to myself. But if I focus on thinking happy thoughts, I'm going to see more happy people. I'm going to, what? Exactly the same as JavaScript 6. Actually, our brain runs, no, I'm kidding. Basically, the fitness function is our focus and our thoughts, which is kind of scary because our thoughts create reality. And this is probably why. So I'm just touching the bare surface of the subject. The implications toward psychology and human biology is amazing. And this is just scraping the surface. Basically, our focus and thoughts are what we are going to create eventually. Most of the time, we're focusing on the future or the past. The future is non-existent. If you think about it, the future never is, because when it becomes reality, it's always the present. The past also, the past is already gone, and we keep on thinking about the past. If we focus on the present and what we really want, we are actually telling our computer to find more solutions, more ways to solve the problem that we're facing now. Basically, it's not a very new idea. Although it might sound a bit optimistic, everything we can imagine, we can find ways to eventually do. Basically, if anything, evolution had shown us the last 10,000, 70,000 years, is that everything we could imagine, eventually we could create. So think of how much power there is in just one thought, the thought that you're thinking right now. Thank you very much.